Yeah. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports Disorder. And from my family to yours, from Mr. Logical's family to yours, Merry Christmas out there. You know what I'm saying? But Christmas doesn't take away sports. It only adds on. So we got a lot to get into tonight. Do me a favor out there. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. You know what I'm saying? Get your mistletoes out too. You know what I'm saying? It's that time of year. And tell your friends, download us on them DSPs. Mr. Logical.
This
What's
Facebook
going on,
stuff
man?
killing me, man.
What?
You know,
What?
like I'm trying to like, you know, every once in a while participate in these little posts. We're gonna get to the football, but I just want to get over this delusion. I don't know why people do this. All right, so you got those posts with like LeBron standing up. There's a bunch of people seated at the table. I think I saw a Wemby one. And one of them had, this particular one had KD and Steph sitting at the table. And it says, who gets up to give Bron a seat? So I was like, probably one of the 2 guys that teamed up to beat him. I mean, like, let's keep it a buck. Right? Like, that literally happened. Like, I get that LeBron went down to Miami. True. But he didn't go down to Miami to beat any of these other guys at the table. So it was like, so this guy responded. He was like, no, Bron teamed up to get to the finals. Remember, he teamed up with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love before he teamed up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. So he doesn't deserve to be, it was on the plane, only team hoopers in the top 10. Either way, KD got a visit from Steph, Clay, Draymond, and a bunch of guys that flew cross country to the Hamptons to beg him to join the team. So they literally had a conference. It was like, yo, dog, come join us. After they blew a 3-1 lead. I think that has some merit. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's not even about being fans. It's like, yo, they literally went and got a hired gun. They're like, yo.
Well, not just the hired gun, but the dude that was probably considered to be the second best player in the league, and a dude that some people actually said in public is better than LeBron.
Yeah. So
I mean, he wasn't, but that's what they said.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna laugh at that and say, you got it, man.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. So, Mr. Logical, you know, what happened. You know, James Madison and Tulane got beat up. You know, James Madison made it a game late, but it could have been one of those Oregon took their foot off the gas things versus James Madison actually, you know, proving themselves worthy.
31 or 34-6 at halftime or something like that.
Yeah, and it ended up 51-34. You know, so Oregon is moving on, you know, to play Texas Tech. You know, we got these quarterfinal matchups that are happening on New Year's Eve, one of them, and then the other 3 is on New Year's Day. So, you know, so I'll be here for all of that. Now, of course, we're going to be out of town, so we're doing our pick, or I'm going to be out of town, so we're doing our picks tonight. You know, but I just want to get your thoughts real quick, you know, before we get into the actual picks on the matchups, you know. So as you can see down in the Orange Bowl, we got Oregon and Texas Tech, you know, out in the Rose Bowl, iconic place that it is. We got Alabama, Indiana, the Sugar Bowl down in SEC land. You get 2 SEC teams, rematch between Ole Miss and Georgia. And then the Cotton Bowl is the New Year's Eve game. We got Miami against Ohio State. So what are your initial thoughts thinking about those games?
My initial thoughts is something Dan Lanning said in an interview this week. And I think he might have said it because it was based off of their situation last year. You get the bye but the first game you play is on the road. It's like you play the whole season to earn a home game, and Texas Tech is in that game's probably played in Miami. I'm assuming the Orange Bowl,
Yes.
yeah, it's probably played in
Yes.
Miami.
Yes.
So, granted, each team fan base has to travel far, but not having a home game, that's one thing that stands out for Texas Tech. Oregon's kind of like I said, they've operated their season a lot like uh Ole Miss, where it's like you won the game you're supposed to, you your one loss kept you out of, I don't want to say being exposed in your championship round, but just having to put your bodies out there for another round. And you just sitting there, you got it early, you got a good matchup with James Madison, a nice home game. Probably feels a lot like a week 1, week 2, like
Whatever it
one of those
is.
tune-up games.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I like the matchup. I like it because we so much as a fan base, we focus on the top Big Ten schools by name. So Ohio State, Michigan is always on the tip of the tongue, with Penn State sprinkled in there. That's the conversation we have. And then if you think about the Oregon being part of the Big Ten, that conversations, they don't really talk about them being part of Big Ten because essentially we probably still view them subconsciously as Pac-12. Texas Tech probably not getting a lot of conversation. The defense is tough. Their one game they lost is their starting quarterback didn't play, and he came back and he won every game that he played. Uh, they played some really good teams: BYU, Utah. Big 12 has a lot of really solid, a lot of NFL players. A lot of NFL players come out of the trenches of those teams. Not a lot of skill guys, not a lot of guys on the edge, but your O line, your defensive line, linebackers, a lot of those guys are in the NFL making plays from a lot of these Big 12 schools, mainly, Utah and BYU is two schools that I'm focused on. I like the matchup. I like the Alabama-Indiana matchup. I think if Alabama can't figure out how to run the ball, it's going to be tough. The Indiana defense is tough up front. And if they know you're one dimensional, because when I was watching the Oklahoma game, it was like you should be running the ball, Bama. They're teeing off. They're just lining up, waiting to get in the backfield because the play action is not working because you're not running the ball. Whether it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, second, whatever it was, they knew you were passing. And if you did run it, it looked like it was going to be promising. Running backs couldn't hit the hole. One of their running backs runs like a linebacker. Like he doesn't look like a natural runner. At number 4, I forgot his name. But I was watching him with the ball in his hand, and it was one, he had a hole. The linebacker was coming to fill the hole, and a jump cut. He waltzes into the end zone. It's like he just ran right into him. Like, I'm not making any cuts. I'm just running downhill. And it's like, yeah, you can run downhill through the hole.
Right.
Now you through. Now you have space. A jump cut left or right. Probably to his right would have been to the defender's left. He would have broken his ankles and he would have just walked into the end zone.
Right.
But
So
so if they can't run the ball, yeah, I think that's gonna be a tough. I like those two matchups the most.
So, like for me, it's one of those things where, as I look at the playoff from a overarching view, am I satisfied with the playoff? Because we were talking about this right before we got on, like going back to last year and all we have is the 1 year to go off of. Ohio State won the title, you know what I mean? And they wouldn't have made a 14 playoff if we had the same rules in there. So Notre Dame, you could argue, might not have even played in the playoff at all, along with Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? And, that works for me. But here's the question that I have before I get into my thoughts. Do you think the playoffs should recede after the first round? So should Miami be playing Indiana as the lowest seed remaining? Because not only, to your point, not only does a team like Texas Tech not get a home game, but your opponent that played last week gets a bye before they play you. So you get a 2-week bye, but they still get a bye before you play them.
Yeah. And you get the best remaining team.
Right. And you get the best remaining team,
So that's, I don't know how it is logistically with the reseeding and how quickly you can get plane tickets, game tickets, and all that stuff. I know the NFL does it, but
Well, the sites are already known, you know what I'm saying? Whereas in the NFL, that same week, things could change. Like that first round, the divisional round, you know, the one
yeah,
seed that had the bye, you know that the lowest seed is going there already, but the other
yeah,
teams have to adjust.
yeah, and I mean, it would be something that they could entertain, but I think the seasons are so arbitrary that I'm not sure it actually matters because I don't think the seeding. I don't know. It feels like Ole Miss at 6 is just Ole Miss at 6 because they just were at 6. Like, could they be better than Oregon? Maybe, but they put Oregon 5, they put Ole Miss 6, and they just went with it. I don't know what metrics they use. They just like, all right, this fits. You know, Miami at 10 just to get them in. That could have easily been Notre Dame, and you probably can make an
That could
argument
have
that
been
maybe
Bama.
could have been Bama. You know, so it's like I think because the seedings, it probably should have been Bama if you think about it, considering that they lost by a lot in their conference championship game. Even if you want to keep them in, you got to get them like in the appropriate position. Like I think
Right.
Texas A&M dropped to 7 from 2 or 3 to 7 for losing a rivalry game to a Texas team that so many people wanted in. So with the seedings being just kind of throw whatever against the wall, make it stick like a Christopher Nolan movie where you just kind of just move pieces around and you just make it fit, and it turns out to be a great movie. I think that's what the players are going to be anyway. It's a lot of good matchups. I think the arguments, the side arguments that everyone's having, like the ones they had about JMU and Tulane both making it, it was going to be a blowout somehow, some way. Someone was going to get blown out. If you think about Alabama, Oklahoma, they were up 17-0 and then basically got walked for the rest of that game. So the score looks better, but you're up 17-0 and you lose 34,
Yeah, they
20,
outscored 34-7 the rest of the way.
34-7 for the rest of the game. So it's
Yeah.
like that's a de facto, bludgeoning. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen every year. Yes, it's probably gonna be easier to predict
Right.
if you have Memphis versus Ole Miss in the first round next year or something like that. Yeah, you might predict that Memphis might get blown out. But you have the format plays out the way that it plays out. I don't like having so many the same conference in because it's like, all right, like all of these, you're gonna get SEC rematches pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, I didn't like the rematches in the first round. You know, I know March Madness has a rule that you generally can't have a rematch until the Sweet 16 at least, to, get that fresh blood in there. But the rematch is one of the games that I'm looking forward to this time around. Like I want to see the adjustments that Georgia and Ole Miss make to each other. You know what I mean? So I guess we can start the picks there. Georgia and Ole Miss played earlier this season down in Athens, 43-35. Georgia came off with that win. It was one of those games where Ole Miss came out. You watch boxing and you see the person that tries to set the tone aggressively. And then by round 6, they kind of start puffing a little harder because they went so hard rounds 1 through 5, and then they get caught slipping. That's what happened to Ole Miss, because they went out, they jumped out early. Georgia outrushed them in that game, though, when it was over, 221-88. They held the ball for 15 more minutes. Georgia was the only team this season that held Ole Miss to under 400 total yards for the game. So now I want to see that adjustment because Lane Kiffin's not there. You still got Charlie Weiss calling the offensive plays, but now you have that defensive-minded head coach that could probably maybe he can match wits with Kirby, like try to keep it as a more conservative game, close to the vest versus trying to get into the track meet that you obviously couldn't stop Georgia from before.
And those are the kind of games that Lane Kiffin loves. He loves the big scoring games, loves the big plays. He loves the theatrics because that's his personality. I don't know if the new coach can impart his playing style on the team that's played one way all year. Because that's what you have is facts. The facts that you have is like, hey, we won 11 games this year, 12 games, playing this way. So let's continue to play that way. Hopefully you can keep Gunnar Stockton in check. Guys seem to really have a grip on the Georgia offense. But Georgia's a tough team. They're going to be tough. They're going to run the ball well. Like you said, they held the ball for 15 more minutes. That's because that's that very tough team. Now, if they can just stay out of trouble off the field, they'd be all right. If they can just
Right.
keep their players from getting in trouble, which is crazy. But the fact that they keep getting players in trouble, guys transferring out, guys getting drafted, and every year since Curry Smart's been there, it's just been like, all right, cool, next man up, and that man is a man amongst children, and he is gonna dominate, his opportunity as well. So I like Georgia in the rematch. Still, I know you want to make adjustments, but without the original head coach that was there, I think it's going to be tough for Ole Miss to make the adjustments to, flip that score in their
Yeah,
favor.
I'm gonna go with Georgia as well. One thing that I am keeping my eye on though is that Drew Bobo, the starting center for Georgia, is gonna miss this game. So we're gonna see how that works. As far as can Ole Miss, disrupt a lot of that run game that Georgia would like to implement. Can Georgia's DBs make the plays? Because Trinidad Chambliss, did get to play against Georgia earlier this year. So, you would like to think that there are some items that he remembers or has seen on film that, oh, they caught me off guard there, or if I do this, they're going to do that. So you would like to think that there's some kind of adjustment coming, but I think Georgia's just too talented. Then you got Alabama against Indiana out in the Rose Bowl. Mr. Logical, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
You're doing the simple, smart, logical thing and picking the number one team in the country.
No, I'm sticking with my preseason pick to win the national title. You know what I'm saying? I think that.
Are you picking for take integrity because that's what you picked?
No, I'm picking. Well,
think?
when I look at Indiana, right, over the course of this season, now this was the problem with the Big Ten that, people were talking about. When you look at Indiana and Ohio State, they didn't play a lot of good teams, like I guess outside of Oregon before, and this is before the championship game I'm talking about. Besides Oregon, Indiana played Iowa. That was their tough game. And then everybody else was a walk in the park because Indiana was able to overpower these teams. But when they met these teams that had good defenses, Fernando Mendoza, salute to him for winning the Heisman, that offense came to a halt. Like when they played against Oregon, they needed a pick six to get out of there. 20-13 was the final score, I believe. They played Iowa. 20-15 was the final score. The game at Penn State, where Cooper had to make that toe tap, one of the greatest catches ever, probably in the back of the end zone.
One of the greatest calls by a ref ever.
Yeah, like
I'm still giving the ref credit for that one. That was legit. Like he looked up and then slid.
Right.
That's an A-level move.
So we have proof of concept. And then when you bring in the Big Ten title game, Ohio State was able to slow Indiana down. Ohio State's kicker just missed the kick that would have sent it to overtime. So we've seen Indiana slow down. I think that Alabama, Ty Simpson's going to get another week, whatever injury he had going on. He's getting that week off because they don't play till New Year's to kind of recuperate and get ready for Indiana. So I know the talking point, which is a very real thing, so I don't want to dismiss it by saying talking point, is that Alabama can't run the ball, which is fine because I don't think Indiana is going to be able to run the ball on Bama. So that's where, I think
Bama looks like they don't practice running the ball. That was the difference because like at one point, I believe it was the second quarter of the Oklahoma game, they had net. So beginning of the third quarter, and counting the 4 quarters against Georgia and the 2 quarters just played against Oklahoma, they had a net negative like 10 yards rushing. And it's like, it's one thing to like not run the ball well or run it for like 2.8 yards a carry or 3 yards a carry. That's tough. That's a struggle. But not getting positive yards and like the play, like I said, the play.
And with all that said, they still won 11 games.
They are because they have firepower everywhere, and eventually a hole is going to open up. I just don't think in a game of this magnitude where you are, what's Bama in? This is game 14 for them, 15. They went 10-3.
Yeah, 15.
So this is game 15.
Yeah.
So games 13 and 14, you still couldn't run the ball.
Right.
That has to be accounted for. Yes, they still made big plays on the outside, but Kurt Signetti has proven that, hey, I know what I'm doing here in this coaching thing.
Oh yeah, he
And
does.
if
Yeah.
I can make you one dimensional to the point where like I'm playing too high safety, because the way you get teams out of too high safety is running the ball, making them bring a guy into the box every once in a while, or rover, or some guy, maybe cover one, you bring a guy into the box, and you just have guys closest to the line of scrimmage. If I know for a fact that you're just going to hand the ball off, and the first dude that makes contact with your running back is going to take him down, I can stay in his too high shell, take Ryan Williams out of the game and all of his drops and everything he's dealing with, and then have you rely on these other guys that I'm going to end up double covering at some point. So I just feel like the glaring weakness of Alabama being half of their offensive attack puts them at a disadvantage. And with Indiana and their time off that they had, I think you should be able to game plan to stop that and just say, hey, Ty,
no, 100%.
You want to throw 48 passes a half? Go ahead.
100%. That's conventional wisdom, but we know that sports is anything but. You know what I mean? And, but I will say, if Alabama does win this game, then you may see the committee or whoever go back to the table again, because this would be the second straight year that you had your overall number one seed come into the playoff as the only undefeated team in the nation and lose their first game. You know what I'm saying? That can't be good for business.
Next year, they're playing home games. I have that feeling that next year, because, and we talked about this before, it's not as if the home stadiums are inadequate for hosting games of this magnitude for these upper echelon schools. Autzen Stadium in Oregon is a perfectly good stadium to host playoff games. We know Tuscaloosa, like these stadiums hold 80, 90, 100,000 people. And it's the town.
Well, it depends, right? Because going back to last year, because like I said, that's all we got right now. Boise had a bye last year. So using that theory, Boise would have hosted a home game against Penn State last year, and their stadium only sits 33,000.
They got rid of that part. That's what I'm saying. So I think last year they should have taken that information, and this year should already been the home game part, because Oregon granted, it's only a couple of states south or one state south to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena and getting slacked is like, yo, they were the only undefeated team. They deserved a home game. So I felt like last year going into this year, how they got rid of the automatic bye, hence why JMU or Tulane didn't get a bye. So they've made tweaks to it. I just feel like they don't want to get rid of the NFL stadium partnerships that come along with the Chick-fil-A and, all these different all these other corporate entities are dictating where these games are played. And that's why I don't think it'll change.
Right.
But it should. It should.
Well, I'm going with the upset. Then you got the Orange Bowl that we spoke about earlier, Oregon and Texas Tech. Like, I think this is going to be the game of the playoff so far. Two, I think, evenly matched teams. Texas Tech is one of the few teams, just going off of location, that have the speed that can match Oregon. They got a Heisman candidate, Jacob Rodriguez finished fifth in the Heisman, won the Lombardi. He's going to be all over the place, and you might see him on offense too. Romello Height and David Bailey getting after the quarterback. So if they can get to Dante Moore, it's going to be a long day for the Ducks. And, of course, Oregon's run game. They've been a run-by-committee team all year long. That shouldn't change. Now, what's impressive about Texas Tech is that all their wins this year, have been by at least 21 points. They outscored their opponents this season, Mr. Logical, by 410 points. You know what I'm saying? So Oregon can't let this game get away from them. And that's where it comes in. Texas Tech has the number one run defense in the nation. But like I said, Oregon has Dante Moore. Cool, calm, and collected. Might be that quarterback in the NFL that you would think Fernando Mendoza is going to be with the Heisman. But I think Dante Moore is that level of cool, calm, and collected, if you will, no pun intended. You remember we talked to Jay Paterno, and he was talking about, hey, this guy walked into the whiteout and he was not affected at all. So,
He
being
felt
so
like a backyard football game to him.
right, and so I think that Oregon's going to win this game, but I think it's going to be a tussle back and forth, and it's going to come down to the wire.
I'm gonna take Texas Tech. Like you said, they're scoring. I think these other conferences, like the top tier teams and other conferences, can compete with any of the top tier teams and then the other ones. So I think Texas Tech is going to really. I imagine people probably haven't watched them a lot. I watched them destroy Utah, and it was like this. I was confident. I was confident. I think Utah's got this because Texas Tech tends to have all the bells and whistles. They have the flashy colors. They have some of the history. Some of these players, recently you got Pat Mahomes. You had Michael Crabtree, the grammar, but it always seems like they're just running and gunning, but there's just holes in the defense. You could just score on them. This team's different. I like that about them, so I'm gonna go with Texas Tech.
And remember, the only game Texas Tech lost this year, their starting quarterback Baron Morton didn't even play. That game out in the desert against Arizona State, and they still only lost that game by 4 points.
Yeah, so I'm looking, 34-24,
sure.
37-24, something like that.
Right. But like I said, keep your eye on Jacob Rodriguez. Saying he's going to be the difference maker in this game one way or the other. Then, of course, you got the game that I am stuck in limbo on. Last week when we were previewing games, I said, hey, man, this Miami A&M game, I just can't pick a side. Now, I picked Miami. I got it right, but I didn't feel confident about it at all. So now that they're playing Ohio State, this is where we go back now. So this is where we go back into the takes. There was a time this season where I asked the question, is Miami the best team in the nation? And I meant that. That was not a hot take. I was not trying to be different. It was a legit question. That was fresh a couple of weeks after the Notre Dame win. Of course, they went out here, lost to Louisville and SMU, and then everybody turned around and was like, hey, so much for Miami. No, not so much for Miami, because this is the thing, right? We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago about the last week about the Buffalo Bills. And we were arguing about, do they have pressure on them or do they not have pressure on them? I can definitively say that Miami does not have pressure on them. People are waiting for Miami to fall on their face just so they can say, I told you so. And it just so happens that they're playing Ohio State. You know what I mean? The team that was number one all year, that lost by 3 points in the Big Ten championship game. Julian Sand leading the nation in completion percentage, breaking records. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, so on and so forth. A lot of people aren't going to pick Miami to win this game. Now, I'm not either. But the point is that Miami, I think, has the trench play to go toe-to-toe with Ohio State, where this game can come down to the last possession, where Miami could win this game just based on Ohio State can't push them around the way that they say pushed Purdue around.
Ohio State was always weird to me all year long. I didn't think their schedule was very hard. I think that 14-7 win over Texas became like a fish story. People just made it seem like it was just this masterful suppression of the Texas offense and their super ultra dynamic overall number one pick prospect quarterback. And I think it's just a matter of, I think we saw the stats for the Heisman quarterbacks. I don't think either one of them threw over 40 touchdowns. I don't think Julian Sand cracked 4,000 yards passing, which is, for college football, Heisman candidacies, number one teams, those are like staples. So 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, maybe rush for another 600, another handful of touchdowns. It seems like those are the guys that get the Heisman votes.
Johnny Manziel ran for more yards than Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, so it's like that those kind of numbers I think it's I don't want to say overrated because I think that's just a terrible word choice. I feel like the Ohio State team offensively is just we're so dynamic everywhere else. He can just throw it up in times of need because he was completing like 80% of his passes most of the year. A lot of drag routes. And then inexplicably teams would go man-to-man coverage on these wide receivers who are all going to be number one, or they're going to be first round draft picks potentially. He's like, there should never be a situation where you have a nickel corner man-to-man by himself with no safety help.
See, but Miami might be one of
and
those
I think he
teams
took advantage
scheme-wise
of.
that
I
can
think
do
he took
that.
advantage of that. I think he took advantage of those kind of moments. I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna pick Miami.
Okay, I like it.
I think you talk about the trench play. I think the way Ohio State played against Indiana. We talked about the Bolitnikov going to guy to USC.
Yeah,
and people upset that Jeremiah Smith. It was like,
yeah,
he only had like a couple more catches, and he just cracked 1,000 yards. It wasn't as if he was having like a Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of year and didn't get the award. Like he was having like an average year for a dynamic prospect, because I don't think the quarterback is that dynamic. Well, that 80%, 67 to 70% is realistic. That means you're taking shots down the field. If you're going 8 for 10 and you don't, like, you're literally is dink and dunk. But like for your wide receiver of that talent, that magnitude, and that core, for you not to have 4,000 yards, or for them, no one has 1,400 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Like, it just seems like the offense was more about just, all right, collectively, we're good everywhere. Yes, you don't make a mistake. Defense, you don't let up. Special teams, you don't let this punt return or this kickoff return happens, and we'll win every game against these inferior opponents. 31 you name it, something under 10, because they weren't even allowed touchdowns for a while.
And I'm glad
I think Miami's chin check and tough, so I think Miami's gonna pull off the upset.
And I bring that now that you bring that up, something else comes to mind here. Now Brian Hartline, is becoming the head coach at South Florida. So effective the end of these playoffs, he's going down to Tampa. Ryan Day's calling plays now. You know what I mean? So do we start to see some of that? I don't want to call it scared, but some of that, let's hold it back a little bit unless we have to.
I think that's how they've been playing all year. I think,
right, and that's what I'm saying. And I think that could bite them against Miami.
But it's a great percentage if you are like an undersized team and you don't have a strong offensive line. They should be doing play action rollouts and deep shots with that wide receiver.
And then, of course, the number one criticism that most of us have about Mario Cristobal is that, they can't hold on to leads. He takes his foot off the gas. He gets conservative, plays with molasses, in his shoes, and it allows the other team to sustain drives, come back. But you don't have to worry about that if it's a back and forth game. Like if both teams are just playing great defense and, challenging each other, you don't have to worry about taking your foot off the gas. So I think that's one of those things, because I can feel pretty good in saying Miami's not going to jump up on Ohio State 21-3 or something along those lines to where that would even be an option. So I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, probably like a 23-20 type game. But of course, all eyes are going to be on Malachi Tony. So, Mr. Logical, real quick, before we get into these NFL picks, I just got to address something, because I never thought I would see a day that I would agree with Keyshawn Johnson. But you know what?
I didn't know you were talking sports.
But USC, Notre Dame, I talked about this earlier this season. One of the rivalries that is the staple and fabric of college football. They've played every year just about, except for COVID and World War II. Every other year, just about since they started playing each other, they've played. 2026, they are not going to play each other. And it doesn't look like they might be able to get each other on the schedule until 2030. I don't care who's at fault. I don't care, who was the team that made this happen. It just shouldn't have happened. Now, I understand it from both sides, because this is where college football has gone, Mr. Logical. USC next year, because they're in the Big Ten now, they play Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State. So I can understand, hey, do we want to play Notre Dame with this type of schedule? You know, from the Notre Dame side, you know what I'm saying? We're independent. We want to play as many teams as we can from as many regions as we can. But now that you're in this conference, we can't play you the time of year that we got accustomed to playing you. You know, that's why they had to play Miami and A&M early this year, back to back, so that way they could get into their conference schedules. They're not going to play you in the middle of their conference. Now,
USC wants to play. They want to play that game in November,
right? And USC was already full of bitch assness because, you know, they would play Notre Dame the last game of the season, you know, generally out at USC or late in the season, whereas they would play Notre Dame in South Bend in October. Like, we don't want to play when that snow is coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, give us some 60-degree weather. We don't want to play in those 40.
You don't want that lake effect, snow and wind. And
right.
You don't want none of that.
But this is one of the games that makes college football. And it's disgusting that it's not going to happen. But with that being said, Mr. Logical, it looks like Notre Dame, at least for the next 2 years, are going to be playing BYU, you know, home and home, to replace that USC game. Because if you're Notre Dame
game, but it's not a rivalry game.
Right. But if you're Notre Dame, it's one of those things, right? Because let's say hypothetically, right, you start off every year 0-2 because you got to play these big boys right off top because next year there, you know, Jeremiah Love's gone, you know, Jadarian Price is gone. So they could, you know, they play Miami early again. I know. But remember when they lost
for facilities. Yeah, they
but remember when they lost to Miami this year, it was we're bringing in a new quarterback early. It's the first game of the season and all that. So that's what I'm getting at. So, but the good news for Notre Dame is we talked about it. If you finish top 12 next year,
you're in.
You got an automatic playoff spot. Now, peel it back, Mr. Logical. That might be a part of why. 13. Well, that might be a part of why USC isn't playing them because remember. All these schools or, you know, those reports started coming out saying, hey, some of these schools might back off of playing Notre Dame now. You know, that
but that's like when people say I'm not going to watch football because it doesn't matter. The brand of Notre Dame is still going to get in. They can play, they can pick 12 states and play an average FBS school from every state. And if they go 12-0, they're going to be in. Strength of schedule be damned just because of the gold flakes in the helmet.
You know, we'll see what happens. But, you know, then also, you remember the name Bobby Petrino?
Yeah, I heard he's calling plays somewhere.
Yeah, never thought I would see the day where Bobby Petrino would be working for Bill Belichick.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk. We're going to get to the NFL shortly. It was a lot of talk of like Phillip Rivers' ability to come in and just be dicing teams up. Yeah, cool. They still lost 48-27. And they lost the other game too, and it was all field goals. So I don't know how much dicing he's doing. I mean, it seems like, but whatever.
Right.
North Carolina getting older at every coaching position is not wise. Petrino couldn't talk to the grown men of the Falcons. He just called a meeting week 13 and bounced. How does he relate to these players? So it's like, Bill, you don't relate to these players, even though your girlfriend is the same age as some of these transfers. This guy doesn't relate. It's just like you're just bringing in more mediocrity. And
his offense has been humming, though. Relatability or not, his offense is humming. So as long as he's not the head coach, it seems like it works.
Yeah, I don't know if it works for Bill because Bill's like, I don't like that guy. It was like, well, this guy runs a 4.3. Like, yeah, but I don't like how he breaks out of his route. What about this guy? He runs a 4.8. Yeah, great route runner. Let's get him. Like, I don't know. I don't see it working.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Bill's even entertaining this mishigash of coaching still. Like, just wrap it up, B.
And then, of course, the last thing, you know, we got the FCS championship game. Illinois State, who came in unseeded. They're trying to be the 6th team in FCS history to win a national title while being unseeded in the playoffs. Going against the Bobcats of Montana State. You know, Montana State pulled it out again. Montana State going out for their first national title since 1984. Sign me up. You know, saying I'm here for it. Let's go Illinois State. collect some bobcat fur.
That's what we love, Cinderella's.
Well, the
in the lower
G5
level.
is being killed by the transfer portal right now. Like these teams, because these guys, James Madison, half their teams at Indiana. Tulane players going to get picked off next year. Darian Mensah was Tulane's quarterback last year, and he's on the ACC champion Duke right now. So, yeah, these blowouts are going to continue to happen, but it's not because the teams aren't worthy. It's because they're just being picked apart. But Mr. Logical, woo! We got to look at this real quick, Mr. Logical, and I want to know your thoughts. This here is our NFL playoff bracket as of today. You know what I'm saying? So if this is the bracket that we end up with, yay or nay?
I mean, I think if you put $1 on this bracket preseason in DraftKings, it'd pay you like $700,000. If look at the surprises, like the Rams at 6 with 11 wins,
it's nuts.
It's nuts.
Well, we saw that last year as well with Green Bay and Washington.
It happens. Yeah. It happens, and the same thing with Minnesota, Detroit. So it happens. These teams with double-digit wins at 6, but Denver at 1 is a surprise. Pittsburgh still holding strong at 4 is probably a surprise. No Kansas City, obviously, a surprise. New England at 2 is probably just as surprising as Denver at 1. But I like it. And this is the difference between the college playoff and NFL playoff. You can't get on TV with the microphone on NFL Live or NFL Countdown or NFL Network and say, I believe the Chiefs are a better team than Houston, and they deserve the 7th spot. You just can't do it. Like it's all meritocracy. Is all about how hard did you work to put yourself in position? How many games did you win? Do you have the tiebreakers? Do you have the resume based off of wins and wins only?
Right.
Not cachet, not coach quarterback relationship, not potential Hall of Fame, not potential award-winning candidacy. Did you win your games? And I think that's the purest form of how to break this down. I still think 14 teams is a lot. I like 12. I mean, 14 is almost half your league. It's a 32-team league. I think 12 is a better format, 2 teams getting a bye.
I like 12, but I think I like 14 just because going back to our talk about college, you know what I mean? Like you get your number 1 seed that bye. So and so you work for that number 1 seed. So I like it from that standpoint. But I do agree that 12 is probably better.
Yeah, and I get that it's 4 teams getting the bye versus 2, but I don't want an 8 and 9 wild card team. If you're 8 and 9 and you win your division, that's
hey, we might have that this year.
But I'm like, yeah, so it's like the 8 and 9 wild card team is like that's a little different. I know the records are the same, but the parameters are like you win your division, you're in. But yeah, so like I said, aside from my I don't want to say disdain, but my dislike of the 14 teams making it out of 32. I like the way this looks. I like the potential storylines that it's building. Carolina's resurgence I think Carolina's resurgence is probably helping the case for me as a Falcons fan to maybe take a chance on a younger, unproven coordinator, marry him with a good young quarterback, and see where you can go. Like I just think their format, like I said, the way they draft, how they paid their running backs, the way they have 2 starting running backs that are working running back by committee.
Right. So
and they're probably the best rookie wide receiver in the league as well.
Oh yeah, 100% Tetaroa McMillan, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so of course, Mr. Logical, looking at the NFC, basically everybody's in it except for 2 teams. So if Green Bay wins this weekend at home against Baltimore, they're in. If they lose and Detroit loses, they're in. If Carolina wins against Seattle, which is a tall task, but they did beat Green Bay and the Rams this year, and Tampa Bay loses to Miami, Carolina's in. So we could go into week 17 with the NFC filled out as far as the teams that are in. Where the mystery comes in is who's going to be the one seed, because it could be the Bears, it could be the Rams, it could be the 49ers, it could be the Seahawks. The one seed is up there for grabs. If the 49ers win out, they'll probably be your one seed. They play Chicago this week and they get Seattle next week. So which would be an amazing story considering the adversity and the injuries that they've dealt with this year.
And they talk about coach of the year. Coach of the year normally goes to seems like a guy that took a team that no one thought was going to do anything and succeeds with them. So I think Dave Canales is probably in that mix. McDonald in Seattle is probably in that mix. But Kyle Shanahan should be in that mix, but he's already coached in a Super Bowl or two.
Right.
And it's like this expectation that he gets his teams to these positions. And I don't think they look at the fact that, hey, man, for like 6 or 7 weeks in the middle, it was a lot of practice squad, third string guys starting on very short notice, and we were winning games.
Yeah. So the Seahawks can clinch this week, the number one, but they need a Rams. They need to win, first of all, of course, but they need a Rams and a 49ers loss or tie. What I'm saying? They'll also win the West that way, obviously. The Bears can win the North if they win in a Packer tie or loss. Carolina, we already talked about. So here's the question. Is Detroit's window closed?
That depends on the money. Like, because I don't believe that if you have the players there, you can still win the following year. I don't think the year prior, unless guys are all coming off injury. But if you finish this year with Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Laporta, Goff, St. Brown, your whole offensive core healthy, missing the playoffs and going into the offseason, I think you're fine. But if you're going to lose some players because this guy's doing extension, this guy's contract is not going to extend it, or you got a franchise tag someone, or some pieces. Like if you're losing pieces, then it could be the window could be closing. But as long as you can run it back with the same core offensive players, and then you bring healthy players back, you're going to get a draft picker here. You're going to get a free agent here or there that's going to want to go to a good team. They're looking at a third place schedule for next year in the event that they don't make the playoffs. Or are they fourth in the North?
Yeah.
So either way, a third place schedule.
They are third.
That's probably gets you a handful of gimme games. Like you'll probably get teams like the Falcons. You'll get, maybe the Jets if Miami doesn't collapse, or teams like Miami. So you'll get teams that are probably in their rebuild as you go into your year, because it's not your year every year. Like sometimes it's just other teams hit that double-digit win plateau before you do.
Well, it's going to be tough, right? Either way, because the Bears are still young enough that they're getting their experience this year, and maybe they hit a peak next year. You got Green Bay with Micah Parsons out right now, but he'll be back, and I imagine that they'll add on to that. San Francisco, Brock Purdy's still young enough, and you would like to think that they won't be as injured.
But his salary cap hit does limit you.
It does limit them
going into next year. So like that helps. If you think
Seattle's
about all the
just
NFC
getting started,
teams, they're not paying a lot for their quarterback, so they're probably going to be able to just kind of retool. But there's going to be some teams that are going to either lose players to just age. There's going to be a lot of coaching changes in NFC. So you're going to get your opportunity to bounce back. It's just this year wasn't you. You had a couple of tough losses here and there, and it just goes that way. But like I said, I don't think they played poorly. I just think they just lost some games that maybe they should have won, and they didn't.
Right. So then the Broncos on the AFC side, they win the West with a win and a Chargers loss. If not, week 18, the West is on the line against the Chargers. They could clinch the 1 seed this week if
They
they
really
win,
shouldn't have
but
let that Jacksonville game slip last week.
I know. Well, they didn't let it slip. Jacksonville took it.
Yeah, but just like those are the kind of games where teams that are used to being in first place are used to being in positions to lock up, because lock you up with 2 weeks left, locking up the number 1 seed overall. Teams like the old school Colts, Patriots when they were rolling with Tom Brady, Philly for the last few years. Like when you're in a position to lock up the number 1 seed with a couple of weeks, you can rest guys who are playing with cast and sleeves on and be getting shot up. You make that happen. Just young teams don't always come through with that, but I think they'll be fine. I think they'll bounce back.
I feel safe saying that the Broncos will not clinch the 1 seed this week because not only do they need to win, which they will, but they need losses by the Patriots, Chargers, Jaguars, and Bills. So you ain't getting all of that. New England could clinch the East with a win and a Buffalo loss or tie. Jacksonville could clinch the South with a win and a Texans loss or tie. Pittsburgh can have the division clinched before they even step on the field Sunday. If Baltimore loses on Saturday, the Steelers are your AFC North champion. The Texans clinch a playoff berth with a win, or if the Colts lose again. So as I mentioned before, Detroit is out with a Green Bay win. So, let's play some football. So on Christmas Day, Mr. Logical, you have Netflix and everybody going crazy. It's backup quarterback central on Christmas Day. You got Detroit playing against Max Brosmer. You got Dallas playing against probably Josh Johnson. Maybe Mariota, but I doubt it. You got the Broncos playing against Alakadin. However, I think that's how you say it, Alakadin. But yeah. These TV execs are upset about this Christmas schedule right now. So
Nate was upset about the Christmas. He was like, "We played
I'm
on
upset
Thanksgiving
about
and
Christmas.
on Christmas."
Yeah, that too.
Give me back to the NBA. Like you don't.
Dallas is playing on Christmas as well. You know what I mean? But Dallas, coming into this game against Washington, it's probably going to be Josh Johnson. Could be Sam Hartman, just depending on how freaky Washington's feeling. But Dallas has given up 37.3 points in their last 3 games. So if you're the Cowboys, Mr. Logical, saying, I'm picking them to win this game, but you come out, playoffs are over for you. What's your motivation to play this game?
You just love football. You simply love playing football.
Because this ain't the 80s where you go, oh, that's Washington over there. This ain't like that no more.
Yeah, it's not the rivalry game. It's on the road. Maybe you want to ruin their Christmas. Maybe that's your motivation. But I think if you come out and play well, just because you simply love playing football. You love to compete. You love to play football. And, you might have to, I won't say psych yourself up, but you might have to just really lock in like, this isn't the moment we wanted to be in on Christmas, but let's go out there, compete. And on top of that, you're not ruining another team's opportunity to make the playoffs either. So I think it's going to be hard to get your motivation up. So you have to just revert back to like, do you love playing football? And do you love to compete? And that's what you carry out onto the field.
Yeah, Washington's defense is just as bad as Dallas's. So, I'm
you want to go out there and put up big numbers? Like, do you want to? Like, you know what? I want to go.
Like, do you play Dak the whole game? And CD and those.
I think you get Milton in there. I think Milton's box office. I think you get him in there and you see, hey, can we get one of those 70-yard bombs completed?
Yeah, can Dak be a Jet next year? That's what you're looking for.
I'll take him in Atlanta.
You know what I mean? So then you got, Detroit and Minnesota. Of course, Minnesota could be one of the reasons Detroit doesn't make the playoffs, because Detroit would be a lot more alive if they didn't lose that game earlier this season. But you got Max Brosmer starting at quarterback here. J.J. McCarthy's hurt yet again. So I'm going with Detroit. I think they're going to win this game rather easily. I saw something. I think I saw Justin Jefferson hasn't had a touchdown in the last 5 games or something like that. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think you got to draw that up.
Yeah,
Like
that's just nuts.
flea flicker, first play, a la Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick. You just gotta get the ball in his direction. Like I don't know how you don't draw that up. I don't care if he's double covered. 18's out there somewhere.
Yeah. He might get a touchdown this week, with Detroit's banged up secondary and everything, but can the rookie get it to him? And then of course you got Denver and Kansas City. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need to get into that, but what I will ask you is Kansas City moving to Kansas. Big deal, no deal, doesn't matter.
I mean, that depends on like their success they had at Arrowhead. I think, as far as I can think back, I think Joe Montana was playing at Arrowhead. Like this, that's like the as far back as a quarterback. 'Cause I know Steve DeBerg was a quarterback there at some point. Todd Blackledge. Um, but I mean, if you feel like you have history at Arrowhead that you want to keep going, yeah, I can rock with it. But if you feel like you know what, we're the Chiefs, we can play anywhere. And if they're going to give you a better stadium, I don't like all these NFL teams going to domes. Like, I mean, somebody should be playing outside. Like, I don't
Well, I
like I
think
don't like everybody wanting a dome. I think Cleveland's getting a dome. I think Chicago wants a dome. I believe this Kansas City from the article I read, I believe
I
that's
think
going to be a
Washington's is
dome.
going to have a retractable roof.
Like, because you're not going to have it open in bad weather. So what's the point of having a
Yeah.
retractable roof?
Well,
Like,
it's one of those things, right? Like, I think that now that we know that the Kansas City Chiefs owner is cool with the orange sherbet, and he made that tweet a couple of years ago when they won the Super Bowl about how the great people of Kansas deserve that Super Bowl. What I'm saying? Maybe they're trying to make it up, what I'm saying, and have his tweet age gracefully. But Mr. Logical, let's get to some real football.
yeah.
Eagles going to Orchard Park. What you got?
Super Bowl preview. No, I'm joking.
No way.
I mean, mathematically it's possible. Mathematically it's possible. I don't know why. I don't see why you can't call a Super Bowl preview. Um, we'll see. These two teams have had like very rocky seasons for teams that probably came in with Super Bowl aspirations. Obviously, the Eagles coming off the Super Bowl victory, and the Bills being, what they deemed a converted fourth down away from, winning or going on for an opportunity to win the game against the Chiefs. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to get from Philly. I'm putting them in that same Green Bay boat, and like Atlanta, but not like in the sense it's like week to week. I think you should be doing this. Like if you lose a game 27-24 or 28-27, but you've competed the whole game, all right, that makes sense. But you're losing games in overtime because you have more like 5 turnovers by your quarterback. That's not a good look. You're not getting the ball to your key playmakers. And when they're all healthy, and that's the thing, is like they're all there and available, and they've been available all year. Whereas Buffalo, I don't know what's going on with Keon Coleman. It seems like that relationship's kind of soured. The deep ball threat is kind of almost non-existent for Buffalo. It's a lot of tight end stuff underneath, a lot of reliance on Josh Allen. But I think they bounced it. I think a couple of games ago he only threw 28 passes. So in the cold, I'm gonna take the Eagles. I just feel like when you doubt them, like that Philly grit just comes out. Granted, all the players on the team aren't from Philly, but I think they embody like that. Oh, that fuck you, pay me kind of, tenacity that Philly brings you, that grittiness, that rawness. So I think Buffalo plays a little bit more finesse. I don't think they play the same level of physicality as the Eagles, and I think that physicality in December wins football games.
What we doing? Circling wagons. What I'm saying? So look, Both of these teams can be had. Obviously, we saw what the Bears did to Philly a couple of weeks ago. Buffalo on the season giving up 144 yards rushing per game. So get Saquon the ball. That is, that's job number one in this game.
On the edge behind Jordan Mailata. Like, I don't know how. You need me to draw the play up for you?
Yeah, because remember, Buffalo was supposed to kill Cleveland last week, but Cleveland ran for 160 yards. Not only did Cleveland run for 160 yards, they ran for 5.2 yards per carry. So the Bills this season have given up had 4 games where they've given up at least 200 rushing yards. The Eagles, on the other hand, you know what I mean? Like, the key is turnovers, right? Any game that they've had more than 2 turnovers in this year, 0-4. Saying, which goes without saying to some degree. Now, with that being said, Philadelphia just needs to make up their mind on what they want to be this year. And I think that's my concern about them going into the playoff, is that it seems like they're still trying to figure out their offense. You know what I mean? They're force-feeding A.J. Brown at times. He's dropping passes. They're starting to get Saquon going a little bit. And the good thing that I can say about Philly this year is, they beat who they're supposed to beat. They beat Green Bay. They beat Detroit. Obviously, we talked about the Chicago game already. You know what I mean? So the one concern that I do have, saying Josh Allen with that foot injury, he got it x-rayed. He got cleared. But when all else fails, give the ball to James Cook. So I'm going to trust Buffalo at home to pull out a small win, 3-point win. Then Mr. Logical. We talked about these two teams earlier in their potential playoff clinchings and all that. So the Chargers are playing host to the Texans. This is a revenge match from last year's playoff where Justin Herbert turned into all the bad Brett Favre memories that a Packer fan could ever have. They lost that game 32-12. The Texans started out the season 0-3, but they've won 7 straight games now. But this is what stood out to me, Mr. Logical. So Davis Mills came in and got this win streak started for the most part. He held it down, put up some points. Yeah. Since C.J. Stroud has been back, the Texans have put up 20 points or less in 4 out of those 5 games. They struggled last week with the Raiders. So the question is, who are the real Texans?
I mean, the numbers would say they're better off with Davis Mills. But C.J. Stroud is your franchise guy. You took him number 2 overall. I like their defense, and I think Justin Herbert just mistake prone. I think in big moments, he's more likely to make a mistake in big moments. And I think playing against a tough defense, like a highly rated defense, when it gets after the passer, the way they do, where they can stop the run. So I was like, those create the mistakes. I think he already makes them. He'd be rolling out free and clear, and I think he'll still throw like a bad pick. So now you add the pressure and the relentless, pass rush. I think the mistake is more likely. And I know he's coming off of surgery. It's been a few weeks removed, so obviously he hasn't really, I'm pretty sure any kind of surgery when you're a football player on your hand impacts you. But I just think that he's more likely to throw the bad pick or have the ill-timed fumble that turns the tide for, in the Houston's favor. Hence why they can score 23, 26 points and still win, because the defense, like, listen, man, we'll keep them around 17 to 18. If you can get 3 touchdowns, we'll win this game. All right, bet.
All right, so I'm going with the Chargers. I still don't necessarily trust Houston's offensive line, because when we go back through a lot of this win streak, like I said, we're talking about the Raiders, we're talking about the Colts, we're talking about Kansas City, who has the defensive coordinator, but not necessarily the personnel besides Chris Jones that gets after the quarterback. So I think that
they snatched 3 interceptions away from,
they did.
This generation's top tier quarterback.
They did, you know what I mean? But I'm going with the Chargers at home, not because the Chargers have a great home field, just because it's not on the road. And, saying set up that week 18 matchup for the West against the Broncos. Sunday Night Football, Mr. Logical. 49ers and Bears. The Bears get the 2-day rest advantage. They played on Saturday. San Francisco played on last night, but it is Sunday night. So some of that could be, not as crucial because it's a night game.
Yeah.
Both teams still alive for the 1 seed, like I mentioned earlier. The Bears, we talked about Buffalo a few minutes ago. The Bears are giving up 131 yards on the ground per game. What's up, Christian McCaffrey? Can the Bears win this game?
I think they can.
Will they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's not sustainable. And eventually it does run out, like these dramatic endings, these catches late that convert fourth downs and you win by possession, or like long field goals, or DJ Moore just open on a deep post route after an onside kick. Like that stuff does fade. I don't know you could ride the wave through the playoffs that way, but I like Chicago. I'm picking a lot of road teams. Probably not a good formula. But I just feel like Chicago's rolling, and I get that 49ers, Kyle Shanahan's done a masterful job with the team. But once again, like, just the Bears just create turnovers. Granted, it's a lot of Russian roulette. You're putting that round in a 38 and you're spinning it, and it's feast or famine. But I mean, when it works, it works.
I'm going with the 49ers.
So why? Yeah.
I'm going with the 49ers. This is that time of year where you start to lean into experience a little bit. Teams that have been in these big games before, players that have been in these big games, coaches, not necessarily because the 1 seed is on the line per se, but San Francisco, has been in these high leverage, battle tested moments before. Chicago's new to the party. Chicago was in a whole world of trouble on Saturday until Jordan Love got hurt. That vintage or that vaunted offense was getting locked down. Now, of course, San Francisco came out and let James Harden, rip them apart last night. So that's always going to be a concern. But I just don't know if Caleb Williams consistently over the course of 4 quarters can do that, because Phillip Rivers did a lot of that cerebrally. You know what I mean? And as Caleb develops, I don't think he's quite there yet. And I don't think Chicago's going to be able to just run the football up and down the field on the 49ers. So Salah's going to force Caleb to beat him, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it. All right, so Ravens and Packers. We might get Pro Bowl Huntley against Malik Willis if Malik Willis can go, and if not, we might get Clayton Tune because Jordan Love is still in concussion protocol. It's only Tuesday, so we don't know if he's going to be out yet. So we have to talk about it as if he's not. I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to play. That was an awful injury. So I think Baltimore's playoff chances are over.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I said, me, I made my argument back when they had 5 losses that the likelihood of them running the table in a league where people don't run the table when they haven't been playing well was unlikely.
Oh, and I'm pissed. I'm pissed because they had the Patriots dead to rights too.
Yeah. I had Cowboys Ravens as my Super Bowl matchup, trying to be, think outside the box. And that hasn't looked good all year.
So remember when we talked about the other day when we previewed that game, what you said about the Ravens? Do you remember?
That
we talked about their red zone issues.
Yeah, they don't score in the red zone, but yet you have Derrick Henry.
Bro, Derrick Henry didn't get a carry for the last 12 minutes and 50 seconds of that game. 12 minutes and 50 seconds.
I say it every week. I am a dude who sits in a gaming chair with the hat and a headphone and microphone, and I talk to you every week, and we talk about the Ravens, and I say I don't trust them because at some point in any game they just forget that they have a 250-pound running back on the team. They're the only team in the league that has him. No one else has a guy like that. Most teams don't even have a tight end that can move like that.
Well,
Yet
I'm
you
not
have a
going to
running
forget.
back that can, he doesn't get the ball.
I'm not going to forget to wave bye-bye to the Ravens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Then you got Seahawks and Panthers. This is it, Mr. Logical. If Carolina, can win this game, like I said, it goes back, right? If Tampa can lose to Miami, the Panthers could clinch a spot this weekend. The Panthers are the giant killers. They beat the Rams. They beat the Packers. Can they do it again?
What do you think?
No. No. Right? This is going to be another week where I'm arguing, saying? Like, this is going to be another argument that I'm going to have on TikTok when I say, hey, did y'all see Bryce Young not throw for 200 yards again? That's exactly what's going to happen. The Seahawks are going to shut all of it down. Now, I don't think the Seahawks are necessarily going to, blow them out. I don't think they're going to go in there and win 31-10 or, anything like that. But I think it's going to be one of those games, saying like you always have to be weary of these teams going across, the country, going west to east. The time differences. You always have to be weary of that. And you add Sam Darnold.
About that this week as well. But yeah, shout out to Reds. I get it. I'm not picking against the 49ers. I'm just picking the ridiculous, miraculous momentum of the Chicago Bears. Like I know the luck's gonna run out. I'm just riding that up and down excitement. Because you gotta keep in mind, it's December. I don't think the last time we've Chicago Bears fan base, or even us as prognosticators and pundits, have talked about the Bears in a favorable light, nearly, holding the number one seed at some point late in the season, and then still being in contention for the number one seed this late. That's why I'm riding that wave. It's not like I think there's a lack in the 49ers. I just think that their plan was, when you play with skill, good luck, what happened. I think that's what Chicago's doing. With Seattle, I think they're just playing with such efficiency. I think Cooper Kupp and the wide receiver room, you have a triple crown winner next to a guy leading the league and receiving. So it's like it's an embarrassment of riches. And like you said, the Bryce Young not throwing the ball for over 200 yards that's part of it. Like, you're gonna have to do that. But
he didn't throw for 200 yards against Tampa last week either.
Yeah. So the west to east, I heard something was depends on what time of day the game starts. If it's what time is that game? The Seahawks and Carolina, is that the 1:00 game?
I'm looking right now. It is the 1:00 game.
1:00 game, so it's a little different. If it was a Sunday night game, essentially the Seahawk players, their bodies would be at a 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. natural rhythm. So whereas the Carolina players who live on the East Coast, it's a very late game. It's 8:00 and you're starting your job versus being physically 5:00 and being able to perform physically. But a game that early depends on when Seattle gets into Carolina. But I think they're better defensively, they're better offensively, and Carolina's a bit limited. Great story, but they are limited, from the quarterback play.
Yeah, I was going to say there's the Sam Darnold factor, but he could be, it is one of his former teams. He could come out ready for business, but I think that Seattle's just going to wear him down. Not a blowout, like I said, but just one of those things. Then you got the Rams and Falcons Monday Night Football. I wanted to just say, hey, the Rams are going to walk up into the compressor and whoop that ass. But then I was like, hey, Buffalo couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Atlanta's coming off of that win against Tampa, like, hey, man.
It was a long time ago, and Atlanta's performances week to week are flighty at best. And and that's like I said, I don't advocate for people to lose their job, but if you're building a team and you want to be successful going forward, either you have to figure out why are we good enough to beat Buffalo in seemingly dominating fashion. Like if Drake London's told us to go out of bounds at the end of the first half, we finished that first half and the score is 28-7 going into halftime. But then you only come on and get 3 more points in the second half. So it's like your inconsistency from the first half to the second half of games is a problem. And then week to week, you lose 30-0 to Carolina, beat Buffalo, and then you come back from down 15, getting 3 possessions to beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay. So it was like you have all of these wins, but yeah, you have these terrible losses in the middle. Who's at fault for that? And I just think that playing the Rams, I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be just as happy to see former teammates and players and coaches and co-workers for Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson to the point where they're not focused, and it gets them, and then the Rams just Puka Nakua's all up and down the field, and it's a blowout,
Yeah, so we'll see
28-6, something like that, 28-9, something along those lines.
We'll see if Devontae Adams can go, but outside of that, I think McVay just knows Raheem. You know what I mean? And this could get ugly. Like I think the Falcons will put up points just because they have talent, but this could get ugly. Bucks and Dolphins, Quinn Ewers making his second start. 20 of 30, 260 with 2 picks against Cincinnati last week. Can the Bucks stop the slide?
Yeah, this is the kind of game you need against a rookie quarterback drafted late, teams falling apart. He's thrown in there to kind of resolve this mess. I'm not sure how much the quarterback room is helping him. I'm not sure if Tua's in his ear helping him out because, the circumstances that are running around Miami. Like I said, I still feel like Mike McDaniel's job. I don't think the onside kicks going to matter when you're down 31-6. Like I said, Riz, I'm not picking because I think the 49ers are lacking. I'm just riding the hot hand.
Yeah.
You're making the bet you shouldn't make, but it's like, I won 5 black hands in a row. I'm going to ride it out, see what happens. It's not scientifically logical, mathematically logical, but I'm like, you know what? I'm riding it out. It don't cost you to win every once in a while. It can't be logical all the time. But yeah, Miami, I think this discombobulation is going on Miami. Like, I still feel like Mike McDaniels is out. You felt like him benching Tua was a sign. His ability.
Why would you do
allowed to bench Tua? Because if I'm the owner, I'm like, I don't want to hurt this guy that I can't get rid of.
Right. I just think that, at the end of the day, I just don't see the purpose of it. You know what I mean? If you could go out, because we were talking to Chris, in the group chat. So if you could go out with momentum, even though you're not making the playoffs, but say they would have beat Cincinnati with Tua last week. You beat you win this game and then you beat New England to close out the year. You argue hey, we got proof of concept here. We started 2-7. We finished 9-8 or whatever it may be. You could have that argument. You know what I'm saying? So if you decide to not go that route and put in a 7th round dude, that's just career suicide. If you don't have a certain,
I think it's because I don't think they believe that they have the people in place. I think a large overhaul is headed down to Miami.
That's my line.
But yeah, that's my piece. I just think that Miami Tua is the most expensive piece that Miami has. You can't get him hurt and not have him to build around whatever you get that's new, whether it's a new coaching staff, whether it's new personnel, whether you move Tyreek Hill for some pieces. however you're going to rebuild and reshape and retool this team, the most expensive guy, and people say the most important position. Like I think the quarterback is a position that you got to get right.
Right.
Everyone says Tua's got to go. The contract does not, unless Arizona's like, you know what, we can try, but the money is so crazy that I'm not. His production doesn't fit the money that he's owed. And if I'm another team, I'm like, I'd rather start over with the rookie out of one of these, top 5 or 6 quarterbacks that are coming out in the draft next year.
Dante Moore
to be in the bottom of the salary cap hell with Tua on a trial basis, because like I didn't give him this money.
Yeah, and and that's the other thing, right?
Too much money left on his deal, Rez. We looked at it last week. It's so much money left on his deal. It's hard to trade him.
I mean, hey, there's always the Raiders out there, but hey, Mr. Logical, I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, but it ain't Dylan Gabriel this time. Saying, remember the last time they played Cleveland, Dylan Gabriel threw 52 passes. We came in here and laughed about it. Saying that would be a funny trade, but I don't think you get anything because y'all just trading the same dude to a different team.
Yeah. You're trading the left-handed version for your right-handed version.
Right. So but yeah, so Steelers, like I said, they might have the playoffs wrapped up and the AFC North by the time they even take the field in this game. So can the Browns do it? And then 2, now that we got a few more games under our belt, how do you feel about Shador at this point?
I think Shador is better than a backup.
Okay.
I think he could be a starter. I just don't like the situation that he was put in this year. I think if he was, let's say, drafted to the Rams, and this was Stafford last hurrah, and you get the tutelage from the coach and the veteran quarterback, and then you take over, I think being kind of thrust into the situation in Cleveland where I'm not sure if he's going to go into the offseason with an opportunity to like get better and improve on the 4 or 5 games he's going to have good film on this year. Because I don't know if Cleveland feels like they have their franchise guy in the building, and they might look at the small sample size like, oh, this is enough. Let's bring in another guy.
And you got Deshaun Watson coming off an injury.
So maybe if Watson's contract is more favorable, I know they restructured it a couple of times over the last offseason.
Right.
If that's favorable and Miami's looking to make a couple of moves, get you another big play threat up to Cleveland. I mean, I'm not sure how that works, but either way, if he stays and then Deshaun comes in and he's struggling, the fans are going to want him. If he goes somewhere else where he's not absolutely a starter, it's going to be the Tim Tebow, Cam Newton effect. And that's unfortunate for a guy just because his charisma is beyond his years. Because I don't think Cleveland keeps their core decision makers in place. So I think they're going to bring in a whole new wave of people. So I'm not sure if they are going to love Shador, because we see it all the time. We talk about it with Jackson Dart and the previous Giants coaching staff. We talked about it with Caleb Williams and the previous Bears coaching staff. It's like these new coaching staffs and GMs and these relationships, they want to bring in their own guy. And we've seen it go poorly so often recently that if you're Cleveland, you're going to have to clean house. And the new guy you bring in is going to be like, yo, let me see what you left me here. Besides Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Delpit, like the defensive pieces. Yeah.
Mason Graham.
Mason Graham, Fanning, and Njoku, maybe Jerry Judy's expendable.
No, get Jerry Judy out of there. Yeah. Like, I think that if Shador would have started.
Yeah, I don't know if Shador fits into the let's see what you got going forward.
No, I think Shador, saying all things created equal, the Browns could maybe have 2 extra wins. Like, they could have won that first Pittsburgh game with Shador. This game's going to be tougher because Quinshawn Judkins is out for the year now, unfortunately, with that dislocated ankle and broken fibula. But hello, Dylan Sampson. That was one of my running backs that I liked in this draft, so I'm happy to see him get some more burn. But yeah, the Steelers will win this game. I think either way. DK Metcalf suspended the last 2 regular season games. Looks like he's going to miss out on $45 million of guaranteed money.
He can still earn it. It's just no longer.
Yeah, he can still earn it, but it's no longer guaranteed. Right.
Yeah,
but
I'm not signing that contract.
You good? You good with the 2-game suspension?
For guys that have been in trouble before, I would have gone 1 or a fine.
I like 2. I'm all about precedent. Don't attack the fans.
Listen, fans are human. You attack a child. Attack a grown man. If that grown man would have ran from the on the sidewalk, would have had that same energy, it would have been a scuffle. So don't sit in your seat and think you can't catch these hands.
No, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with DK.
I'm giving out Christmas gifts.
Depending on what happened, what was said, all that, I'm good with DK as a man on a basic level doing what he felt like he needed to do. As a league, I can't let you try to attack the fans.
That's why I said a game. You get a fine. I don't like the language in the contract to where, in the heat of the moment, because say you cuss a coach out in a meeting. It's an intense game. But they run up the flagpole and they say, all right, we're going to suspend you for cause.
Well, there's some rumors that Derrick Henry and Harbaugh might have got into it this weekend.
I wouldn't blame them out there. Listen, I'm your best threat outside of Lamar, but healthy Lamar, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fans are humans. Like, I'm not saying they're human and they make mistakes. I'm saying they're human. They can catch these hands.
Yeah.
For
sure.
You're out here running your lips. You go catch one.
So Jacksonville hasn't lost to the Colts at home since 2014. Jacksonville has lost 6 out of 7 in Indianapolis. Do Phillip Rivers got one more in him, Mr. Logical?
Nah, he looks out there look like a science teacher. So yeah, I think he'll give us some more sound bites. I think he has that kind of personality. Imagine if he want to stay close to football. I believe he coaches his son's high school back home. I believe he lives in North Carolina. If he wants to stay close to football, but this is an all-time run for the 40+ guys. So shout out to that, because it's like I walked around New York City yesterday. My ankles are killing me. So for him to go out there, same age as me, and play a football game, I commend him for that. But it's a young man's game. No matter how cerebral you are, it's a young man's game. A young man's going to make plays, and he can't play defense. He can't get the defensive position from the sideline. He can navigate and get guys open on out routes and post routes and see what this zone is and what this. But he sees all of that. But it's only so much you could do coming off of basically a few weeks of texting with the head coach and then coming off your couch into the NFL.
Yeah, I got Jacksonville winning this game. The only thing that I am concerned about, and I don't know how this works in the NFL versus college, but, coming off that win against Denver, because we talked about how it was a statement moment for Jacksonville, is it possible that Jacksonville is feeling themselves, smelling themselves right now, where they come in, get off to a slow start, and you let the old man hang around to make a play late? I'm going to trust that Jacksonville isn't going to fall into that trap. I think Jacksonville's
vision. This is their year.
Not only can they lock up the division, but they're still alive for the 1 seed too. I mean, granted, a lot of things have to happen for Jacksonville to get that 1 seed.
They're starting quarterbacks 9 touchdowns in the last couple of weeks. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, the Colts are ready to go home. Fold that up right now. You know what I'm saying? Giants, Raiders, the loser of this game is probably going to get the number 1 overall draft pick. Can one of these teams not tank themselves to a victory?
What about a tie?
It's possible.
I think the Giants are probably, if they're smart, I'm not sure who they're eyeing for their head coach. Granted, you don't want to lose. You want to compete. But I think the Giants benefit the most from having the number one pick because I think they already got their guy at quarterback. They can keep him healthy and get him weapons, but I think they have their guy at least for a couple of years from this season and 2 more years. I think they have. I think they have their guy, and with the number one pick, maybe you see who ends up around 4 or 5, and you trade out of that pick. You get a nice little haul similar to what Carolina got. But yeah, so yeah, I'm Kenny Pickett. It just doesn't scream winner to me. But I'm gonna give him a shot just because it's at home. Just because it's
Right.
in Nevada, I'm gonna go with the Raiders. But it wouldn't surprise me if the game was just like the games Giants played last week, 16-13.
I'm taking the Giants. Ready for this astute analysis?
Let's hear it.
Because the Raiders are that bad. Okay, so Cardinals and Bengals. Give me the Bengals, to wrap up the Cardinals. And then finally, Mr. Logical, Saints at Titans. Saints off of 3 in a row. Tyler Shuck still looking better by the week. Got some Taysom Hill action last week. The Titans actually won last week. Who wins?
I mean, I had New Orleans, but I'm gonna change it to Tennessee. I'm gonna go ahead and give Tennessee the benefit of the doubt. I've been shitting on Cam all year, and he's just been out there just balling his heart out. Probably one of the most under talked about number one picks that I could think of. That wasn't an offensive lineman. I'm pretty sure some offense like Eric Fisher went number one overall. I think Jadeveon Clowney is a defensive lineman. He went number one overall. Murray Williams. So like, there's number one overall picks that always aren't moving the needle. But for a quarterback to not really be even talked about, it's pretty hilarious. So I'm gonna give him some love this week and go ahead and pick Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with
that
the
nation
Saints.
or whatever, they'll be all right.
I think the Saints have been playing with some momentum. I think they're believing now. Tyler Shuck has, because young quarterbacks seem to have that effect on teams. Like we saw the Giants before Jackson Dart got hurt. Him and Cam kind of had that effect where even though they weren't necessarily winning, they looked
It's
galvanized. It was a certain energy. I think the Saints have that, so I'm gonna roll with the Saints. But Mr. Logical, quick question: can the NBA take Christmas back?
They could if their superstars took November back. That's the problem. The problem is the superstars let the NFL take November. Guys are just missing time, starting the season not ready, getting late surgeries or rehabbing. Like guys just aren't ready. They're not ready to take over the moments. They're trying with this NBA Cup, but the NBA Cup ends up with I think it was like Indiana, Milwaukee one year. Granted, Indiana ended up turning to the NBA Finals team last year. I think the Lakers got one, so people just like hated that just because it was the Lakers. I don't know, just if they could take back November, they'll be all right. But it's just they're not showcasing their young talent. These guys need to be in more commercials. They need to be on TV more. Like it needs to be like the NBA needs, like the NFL lets you know, hey, we got Monday night, we got Thursday. If Christmas is on Wednesday, we got Wednesday. We got a special Black Friday game. It's like, before the year starts, like there's certain dates on the calendar that aren't generally football days where we have this matchup. The NBA doesn't do that. Like the NBA doesn't showcase. Listen, we got the old guard versus the young guard. We got OKC versus LA. We got San Antonio versus Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox revenge game. Blah blah. Whatever the case may be, it's like that stuff's not funneled. Like these other games are on Netflix. I know the NBA has like games on Prime, but I'm not sure exactly when.
Peacock.
It's like, so you can't just run it when I have the Peacock app open. Like we have social media. I follow a bunch of NBA groups. I follow a bunch of sports groups. We have this podcast. We follow a bunch of different podcasts on our Twitter and everything else. Like, they need to be funneling this information to us. They only funnel speculation trades that aren't going to come to fruition. Like, that's the only thing they talk about. Only thing I get on my social media feed is, like, granted, this, these BS random LeBron versus MJ arbitrary debates, and then these crazy unrealistic trades that are going to get Giannis and Anthony Davis back to the Lakers. It's like, dog, it's 30 teams. Kate Cunningham is balling. Why is that not flooding my timeline as a person who follows a bunch of groups? Why aren't you telling Shams to send this stuff out? Adam Schefter will send out a tweet about a long snapper who tweaked his groin if he thought it was breaking news for the game on Sunday night.
So
the Patriots going to be without their long snapper, so it's going to be a field goal game, but they got working on a new long snapper, blah 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 blah. Like, he will literally tweet that out. Granted, I know it's not that deep, but it's like that kind of information will come out on a Wednesday from one of the biggest names in sports. But all we get from the NBA is like these hypothetical deals and people's moods.
So, we got Christmas coming up. Out of these 10 teams that we're going to watch on Christmas, 8 of them are in the top half of the league in offense. So, should get some fireworks. The first game gets us started wild because, Cleveland was my pick to win the East this year. They started off the season, Darius Garland missed the opening part of the season. Since then, Jared Allen has missed games. Evan Mobley is out now. The Knicks are out here winning championships. So this is going to be a crazy game to start off the day as far as can the Knicks uphold that momentum? Can Cleveland get something going? Because there's rumors that Darius Garland may be out of there, and, we could be looking at him being traded to run his own team because he doesn't want to necessarily be the fall guy behind Donovan Mitchell anymore. So the game is going to be at the Garden, which is always a great time in these isolated moments, whether it's the playoffs, whether it's Christmas, so I'm here for it. Then we got the game of all games, Mr. Logical. We got the Spurs and the Thunder. The Spurs and the Thunder. We just saw that a couple of weeks ago, or actually it was last week in the NBA Cup semifinals. So I'm excited for this game because, if nothing else is going to happen in this game, Wemby is coming out to make a statement just because Chet Holmgren's on the other side. Chet Holmgren tries to downplay it somewhat, but you need to put on your big boy draws now because Wemby's going to get in your ass. Pause. You know what I'm saying? But also, this is a moment where OKC doesn't generally have to go for revenge a lot. So this could be a spot where we see Killer Instinct OKC letting the Spurs know you got us last week, but no, this is not a rivalry. You have not arrived. Get back in your place.
All right, and this is all on Peacock?
I have no idea what channel these games are on.
Exactly. And that's what Knicks will win the championship. So, I mean, I figure I'd follow somebody that live this close. Yeah, like, I like the matchup. I don't know why. I like Wemby. I like his unique skill set. But
all of these games are on ABC and ESPN, by the way.
Okay, perfect. I like it, but I don't know. It's just something about like his availability is always bothersome to me. Chet, we know why Chet's out. Chet falls on the ground, and we see like, okay, that's where Chet got hurt. It seems like Wemby gets hurt, and we just get a report that like, oh, he's dealing with something with his foot, or he's dealing with something with his leg.
He doesn't have the weight to support his height.
So it's like and I don't know. I just feel like do something. Do something.
Did you just go grab a Knicks hat?
What are you talking about?
You are disgusting.
I had this on the whole time.
You are disgusting.
I had this on the whole time, son.
What kind of net fan are you?
Not that. Yeah, so like I just think that I don't know. I just think Wemby and the Spurs as a collective, all right, do something. I mean, get into their stratosphere where you're running off 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games in a row consistently. Get into that space before, like, I like the matchup because it's two tall, slim guys, like that are just kind of basketball anomalies. People thought they were too skinny to survive this long, and they are impressive. But like for Wemby and the Spurs, like, yo, win something first. Get to the second round of the playoffs first. Like, how are we having these? Is Wemby having a seat at the table conversation? It was like, yo, dog, he's sitting on the bench more than he's playing in impactful games.
Yeah.
So
So then, of course, saying you got the old against new, like Mr. Logical was just talking about.
yeah,
Dallas and Golden State. And of course, we saw Draymond Green and Steve Kerr have their moment last night. Draymond had to walk away, go to the locker room, and then he came back out. Steve Kerr didn't put him back in the game. Like, I don't know what we doing, but Golden State just can't function without chaos and drama. It's what they do. I'm happy to see Cooper Flag on national TV in this spot. This is the type of thing that Mr. Logical is talking about. With Cooper Flag going up against Steph Curry, there should have been commercials for this 3 weeks ago.
They don't have the same shoe deal.
That's
they don't have like a lot of, and I noticed that as well. Like, they don't have, if you're in the same shoe contract, then yeah, but you'll be in the same commercial with a guy. But
no, I mean in the NBA hyping this matchup.
NBA, yeah, hyping it up. Yeah. I think the NBA just feels like we're good because we're the NBA and we're good no matter what.
They got the TV money. You know what I'm saying? It's already secure.
TV money, we're locked in. So, we have teams in the most popular cities in America. Every single one.
I have to admit, I am sad.
As a basketball team.
I have to admit, I am sad because normally, like, the best Kyrie Irving you will ever see is a Kyrie Irving that is looking across at Steph Curry. He's still out probably until later next month, but this would be a Christmas moment if Kyrie was here. You know what I mean? The Warriors are going to walk all over him probably. Hopefully Anthony Davis can finish the game. Derek Lively's out for the season.
One of those Cooper Flag, like, come out games. Like, I think he just scored 41 or 42.
Yeah, 42 points a couple games ago. Yeah.
Oh, come on, get 45. Go
Maybe.
Back and forth with Steph. Maybe, hey, refs, give him about 16 free throws if you can. Let's that bump in the and one. Yep, that's good. Get to the free throw line.
Mr. Logical, who leads the NBA in scoring right now?
As an individual?
Yes.
Probably like LaMelo Ball or something ridiculous.
It is the one and only Luka Doncic, averaging 34.1. And here we go. The Rockets coming in. I expect him to see a lot of Amen Thompson in his face. LeBron on Christmas. He always complains about it, but realizes, like, hey, this is what we got to do from the state. Yeah, and you know what I mean? And LeBron on Christmas is just one of those guys, right? And it's LeBron against Kevin Durant, because it wouldn't be Christmas if they didn't try to pair those two together. But what I'm looking for is, how many times is Ime going to call LeBron a bitch during this game?
Yo, Ime gets at players like he's not a coach of another team.
Like, he's not old too. Like,
why you out here like Jim Jones trying to be a YN in your 40s? Like, be easy. Like, let these dudes play. Because it's like, it's only so much. Like, I feel like, say, when referees go back and forth with players, like, dog, I can't say everything I want to say to you because you can toss me out. So why you engaging me? You can't really go at a coach because now all the other players getting involved. Now you getting technical. If the coach gets attacked and he leaves, so what? Someone can walk back to the locker room and see what he wants to do for adjustments. He's still watching the game. It's not like he can't watch the rest of the game. It's on TV. But if you lose a player, that dude can't go play defense. That guy can't go score because the head coach is talking slick to the players. So it's like, yeah. It's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a great game. And then, of course, Wolves and Nuggets close out the night. Jokic leading the league in rebounds and assists, doing Jokic things. Anthony Edwards, gotta love this matchup. Minnesota owned Denver coming into the season for the last couple of years, but of course, Denver won both games by double digits this year. Still no Christian Brown, still no Aaron Gordon. So, we'll see what kind of fight Denver can put up. But speaking of old Denver Nuggets, Mr. Logical, word on the street is the Brooklyn Nets are fans of Sports Reports as ordered, and they have taken our suggestion and put Michael Porter Jr. on the trade block. He playing too damn well.
Who else got traded from Philly? He was rookie of the year. He had 3 names.
Michael Carter Williams. He learned his lesson because he did not make an enemy out of Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of that. I mean,
thanks for watching the show, y'all.
Who is this for then? Like, I mean, who are you rolling the basketball out there for?
Hey,
it's not for the fans, because these Brooklyn Nets prices aren't cheap.
Hey, if it was me, trade Michael Porter Jr. for Draymond.
Draymond will opt out.
Get it out the mud, Draymond. Get it out the mud.
No, just like if you don't want to win games, then what is this for? Like, what are you doing? I get it that strategically, like, oh, we can get one of these top picks.
Yes,
but you can still.
Have you seen these picks this year? So we got Darren Peterson. We got Darren Peterson. We got Cameron Boozer. We got AJ Debancha. We got Nate Ament. Quaidance. Jaden Quaidance is making his debut. He's out here. Kentucky Wildcats, of course. He's out here doing his thing. Like, you got this guy down in Arkansas.
But you're gonna lose. You're gonna be in that position anyway, because you just don't have the overall firepower anyway. Like, you just simply don't have it. You don't have to like completely tank. You're probably gonna lose games 125 to 118. And Michael Porter Jr. can go and get you 38 points, and he can ball out, and you can still lose. Like, you don't have to just be like, nah, we go ahead and just tank, but I'm still going to charge you, $400 for standing room tickets. Yeah, that's the BS part that I don't rock with.
And then last thing from me, Mr. Logical, I think my guy is finally going to be an all-star this year. Former Washington Wizard, should have been Wizard legend, Denny Avdia, leading the Blazers, during all their drama with 26, 7, and 7. Get my guy in the All-Star game. Get him in there. That's all I'm saying. Name. Get him in there. But, this is Sports Reports as ordered. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hopefully you enjoy your loved ones. Happy holidays for those that don't celebrate Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa out there. Happy Boxing Day, because that's the day that I fly out for my vacation. So Sports Reports is ordered. We'll be back on, I got to look at my calendar here, January 6th. We'll be back. Of course, we'll have content coming at you on TikTok and all that good stuff. But he is the one and only world renowned, cool, calm, and collected. Even though he only put on that hat because he thinks he has the power to get the New York Knicks to cross the George Washington Bridge and come over to Jersey.
Stay in Madison Square Garden, man. It's the Mecca.
He is Mr. Logical. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, your unorthodox statistician Gorn left so much you thought I was southpaw. All Jake Paul had to do was listen to me. When I told Jake Paul to slip, that's not what I meant. You know what I'm saying? I am 2'5", Broken John.
The way he was going to beat him with a gun.
Broken Jaw in 2 places. I do believe in Joe Hendry. This is Sports Reports is ordered. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Liquid Death in hand. Download us on DSPs. Tell your friends about us. And we will see you after the new year. We love y'all so much. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all your support. We are entering year 3 of Sports Reports Disordered, the biggest movement since Dipset.
Dipset.
Holla back.